Hello everyone and welcome back to the video. Today we're taking a look at the Minecraft contraption system. We're going to see how we can make them, and we can move them, and we have a lot of work to do in this video, so let's get started right now. The first two items we have is the mechanical piston and the sticky mechanical piston. Just like in Minecraft, the mechanical piston can push multiple blocks. Any blocks that are on the way will be also transformed into a contraption and push as well. Now the difference between the two of them is the mechanical piston has the ability to move glue block. Now you may also notice that the piston can extend to more than one block. That's using the piston extension pole. When you place a piston and try to extend it, you won't do anything. You need to add the piston extension pole behind. Each of them makes the piston extend one block further. Now the piston is not sticky, but there's actually a small bug on which if the piston extends but doesn't have time to place, you can retract the block. In this case, I can pick up this block up here. I simply take it into the contraption and retract it back. The sticky piston on the other end will simply keep up the block on its sticky face at all time, even when it's placed down. The sticky face gives you the ability to use the same bug that I've shown you previously, but in the intended way. For example, here I'm going to connect all of these blocks together, and I'm going to talk about them right after that. But now that the texture is connected, I can retract the entire structure. Great! Now we have to see the linear chassis, secondary linear chassis, radial chassis, and the glue that I've already shown you previously. So first one is linear chassis, and secondary linear chassis work the exact same way. It's just that they won't connect with each other. In this case, this one will only push the two blocks, and this one will push these two. If I connect all of them to one single linear chassis, all of them will be pushed. When you place a linear chassis upward and use super glue on one of his face, not this side, it won't work. You can glue the linear chassis. Now, any block placed on it will follow the movement of the contraption. Also, when you have a wrench, you can choose the distance on which the glue will affect the block. In this case, only this face is glued, but all the block above will be glued. You can change the distance which the block are affected using a wrench on it. The basic wrench is set to 8, and as you can see, even when placed, the block will continue to follow the linear chassis. Then we have the radial chassis. When you place a block next to it, nothing happens. This is because you have to glue the side. And you only have to glue the side you want to follow the chassis. So for example, if I place a block behind, since it's not glued, when I activate the contraption, only the block on the glued side will follow. Now, if I use a wrench, I can also choose the radius on the sticky block. So all the blocks are connected, so in this case, because this side is sticky and the two blocks right here connect, it will try to connect to every single block until it counts to 8. So since I don't want it to take my wall, I'm going to diminish it to one single block. And now we'll expand to every single block that are at one distance of it. Also, the radial chassis will connect to each other even when it's not glued. The last one is the super glue, and instead of just being used to glue the face of the different blocks that we just talked about, you can also select a normal block, in this case. In this casing, do first right click, choose the first position, and now you can glue more complex structure if you can't use the normal linear chassis or radial chassis. In this case, I just want these two blocks to go together. Do first right click, second one, and now the whole contraption move together. Now I need to remind you that the ability to push block on another one that's not moving is only used by the mechanical piston. All of the other anchor block of create don't have the ability to do this. If they move a contraption and the block is on the way, they will get stuck. In this case, the piston, if they move a contraption and another block or even a contraption is on the way, this contraption will join it. Okay, one last thing on the piston is the little setting that they have on this side. You have 3 of them, always place when stop, which obviously makes that every time the rotation power stopped, they will try to place the block and they will always snap it on the nearest block. This setting also makes that when the block arrives to the end, it will be placed, even if the rotation power is still being input. The second setting, placed only in starting position, mean that the block will stay in the ghost state, in this case contraption, until it's replaced in its original position. And the original position is not set by the block itself, it's set of when you choose a mod. In this case, if I place the second setting when the block is all the way up, if I retract it, the piston is still in go state, even when it's at the end, and it will not place until it's back in its original place. And the last one is place only when anchor destroyed, which simply means that the piston will always stay in the go state, as well as the contraption. Finally done with the mechanical piston, now it's time for gantry carriage. Now the gantry carriage is composed, just like the mechanical piston, of 2 different blocks. The mechanical carriage itself and another one called gantry shaft. Contrary to the piston that use pole placed behind to push block, this one has a predefined route that it will follow at all time. For example, if you want to push something in one direction, you need to use a piston. However, if you want to go back and forth on the same place, you're going to prefer to use gantry carriage. So just like the mechanical piston, this thing uses rotation power to move. By changing the rotation direction, you can make it go back and forth. Also, as you can see, you got a shaft placed inside the carriage. This means that when you give redstone power to the gantry shaft, all of the rotation force will be transmitted to the little shaft inside the gantry carriage. In this case, if I flick this lever, it will power the shaft and will set the rotation force in this flywheel. That's everything for now. I will come back on it a bit later, but we're going to get on the bearing. So in Create you get 3 types of bearing. The windmill bearing, the mechanical bearing, and the clockwork bearing. First one is windmill bearing. I've already made a video on it on how to make power, so now I'm going to show you how to make a functioning contraption using it. So first I have the main body of the contraption using a linear chassis connected to each other. Then I have mechanical plough that I'm going to explain later in the video. And finally I have some windmill sails that I've connected to it using glue. You need a minimum of 8 sail-like block, which means that you can also use wool block. And after you're done making the contraption, you can do a simple right click on the bearing and it will start to work. So this is a very simple and slow design, and that's why we're going to take a look at the second one. This is a mechanical bearing, just like the windmill bearing, but in this case, instead of creating rotation power, it needed to work. That means that instead of having to use a bunch of sail to make your machine work fast, you can just directly give it any kind of rotation power that come, in this case, from water wheel. Before I start it, the mechanical bearing have 3 movement mode. Always place when stop, only place near initial angle, and only place when anchor and destroyed. So as you may remember, these modes are almost the exact same as the mechanical piston. It's just that instead of trying to place themselves on a grind, they will try to place themselves on the nearest 90-degree angle. In this case, I'm going to let it on always place when stop and pour it using water. As you can see, not only it's a lot faster, but you also have more control using the 3 different mod. Also, just like the windmill bearing, which you can do right click to stop it, you can also right click on the mechanical bearing to stop it. And contrarily to the windmill bearing, when you right click on it, you will try to snap on the nearest angle instead of the original angle. Unlikely enough, if you actually want the machine to stop at the same place all the time, if I place it on only place near initial angle, and you do right click on it, it won't place itself on the nearest initial angle. It will only place itself on the nearest angle that it can go on. So these are the two ones that can actually be useful, and the other one is purely decorative. It's a clockwork bearing. So in Minecraft, you have two ways to tell time. The normal clock placed on an item frame, or the cuckoo clock from Create. However, you have another way by using the clockwork bearing. The way the clockwork bearing work is by giving rotation force input on its back, and then you need to make two contraptions in front of each other. In this case, in front of its glue side. If I take andesite casing, this is the first contraption. If I add fence in front, this is the second contraption. Now if I glue the first contraption and the second one, and I do right click, it transforms into a clock. So after making the game actually change the time, you can see this is the minute hand and this is the hour hand. Obviously, since we're in Minecraft, the minute hand actually is in second and the hour hand is actually in minutes. The setting of the clockwork bearing is to show hour first, which is this one, and then minute after. You can change it by making the minute first and hour after. And you can also show a 24-hour hand first. That's everything from the clock. Now I want to show you a bit more how you can control the mechanical bearing. So in the game, I've really shown you can use the valve handle and you can set the angle on which you want them to turn. In this case, I can move exactly at a certain angle in contraption. I can also revert the rotation by pressing Control. In this case, since I'm playing by crunching on Control, that's why you see me watching every time. So here, for example, I got my mechanical press, I got my depot. All you have to do is just connect it using a shaft. And if I do right click, boom. Now I have my mixer and my basin. And I can do it again. And again. Now, obviously, this design is absolutely horrific and unpracticable, but you can always make something better like this. And it's very fun to make. We are done with rotation. Now, let's get back to pushing and retracting block. This is the rope pulley. The way it works is very simple. Just have send rotation power inside of it, and a rope will go down until you find a block. And when you retract it, it will take the block or the contraption. So you have a pulley all the way up here, and by pressing this button, it will start to go down. When the rope stops moving, aka you can see the hitbox, you can climb it. If I press the button again, the block glued to it will go away. If you want to get rid of the rope, you can always one-hit it, even in survival, to instantly destroy it, and it will teleport back all the way up. Now if you remember, I told you that the piston, mechanical piston, are the only one that can use the contraption to push other block. So if I glue these two blocks together and place a block above it, it will get stuck and you won't be able to move this block. The mechanical piston won't have this issue, so if you need to move contraption that will enter in contact with other block or contraption, you need to use mechanical piston. However, if the rope pulley is already connected to the block or contraption, you can use any way to move it and it will still be glued to the block. If you check above, the rope pulley have the same movement mode than the piston. I will not explain them, they're absolutely identical. And just before I forget to do it, the rotation contraption will never hit any block on their way. So while the piston are the only ones that get push contraption or blocks that enter in contact with their already moving contraption, the rotationary one don't care about any block on their way. They will just go right through it. So rope pulley is done. Now let's get to his big brother, the elevator pulley. So the elevator pulley doesn't have any setting on his top. You need rotation power on one of his two sides to work. Once you have it, you need to build an elevator. If I take out my glue, you can see it's an absolute mess and it's disgusting and I know about it. But the only thing you need to know is an elevator need two things to work. A redstone contact, another redstone contact, but this one is outside the elevator. They need to be connected to each other. And a contraption control, which I'm going to explain is primary use a bit later. Once you make sure that both of them are connected to the elevator, which what it means is that they need to be on a contraption that will get glue to the elevator pulley once it will go down, and also need to have the redstone contact on the exact same block, and as you can see down there, is on the exact same axis. Now that you're sure that you got every single block ready in your elevator and that you have the redstone contact perfectly aligned, you can right click on the elevator pulley. Once you see the blocks are gone, that means that you've successfully made an elevator. Now, the elevator don't have to be perfectly below it. As long as it's just below at any distance, it will work. As you can see, I'm not connected it to the center. Now, since I'm not using full block, it doesn't look like it's glued to it, so I'm just going to make the elevator go down to show you a bit better. Yeah, you can see it's connected. So to see better, I have my elevator down here. It's all glue. I have every single block ready. So if I do right click, it will instantly connect down to the elevator. So it will try to connect to the first contraption that can be an elevator as long as it's aligned on the same axis. Now that the elevator is done, you will see two new things. The first one is the redstone contact that was previously aligned to the one in the elevator will change the texture. And the second one is the contraption control that now show a number. This number is simply the number that you've given to the redstone contact. At basic, Create will be intelligent enough to set them to 0 to be the lowest and higher number for the ones that are above. Of course, you can always change this number yourself, -1, or even letters. You have a maximum of 4 letters you can place in. And the other one is the option, which I don't really think as... You can get a pretty long name on this one. So now, when I select floor 0, oh, I forgot to press... whoops. Okay, I got it again. So now, as you can see, we got the name of the floor and a little description below it. The way you do to change floor is simply use your scroll wheel to go up and down. And once you choose the floor you want to go, you do right click and the elevator will go to it. If you want to call the elevator, all you have to do is send a redstone signal to the redstone contact of the floor you are. If you get an elevator with 2 doors and one floor you want to exit this way and another floor you want to exit this way, you can choose which door open on each floor. In this case, open all, the door will close when the elevator is moving, and open all of them once it arrives at this floor. You can change it to north, east, south, west, or keep door closed if you need it. Since the redstone contact changed, but it's still a redstone contact, you will also output a redstone signal to say that the elevator has arrived. And of course, the most important one. Now I think that's everything for the elevator. Let's get to our last one, the cart assembler. The cart assembler is, I'm not gonna lie, is the craziest tool you can use to make a contraption. All you have to do is place the blocks or contraption you want above the glue side of the cart assembler. Then, when you send a cart inside of it while it's redstone powered, the block will get glued to the cart. If it's not redstone powered, the contraption will be placed back on the glue side. The direction of the arrow is pretty useful because it's saved some kind of memory in the contraption to know exactly in which direction it was facing. If you don't really know what I'm saying is, if I place a block in this direction and I place this cart assembler on the opposite side, this arrow point in this direction, which means that when I glue these two blocks together, they will place in this direction. So as you can see, the contraption take it, and even while the block were facing in this direction, because the arrow of the cart assembler was pointing in the opposite one, the block got placed back in their original rotation. This can be very useful if you always want your contraption to arrive in a certain rotation. All you have to do is choose a rotation you want it on the first cart assembler, and then place the second one in a way it will place it. Now, unluckily enough, you can only do it on the side of the rail. If I try to place the cart assembler in another direction, it won't work. On the cart assembler, we have 3 modes: always face toward motion, pose actor while rotating, and lock rotation. The first one, always face toward motion, simply make that the block will rotate in the direction that the minecart is moving. Now the issue with this is that it will not face the marker itself. So if I push the marker in one direction, it will follow this direction. And if I push it in the other direction, if I manage to press a button here, it will not follow the direction of the minecart. Instead, it will follow the direction that the minecart is moving, not facing. Now the second mode, pause actor while rotating, does the same thing, except when you have an actor. In this case, I've put a mechanical harvester so it's more visible. They will stop moving while they're rotating. Well, I didn't see anything here, but trust me, it just stop it entirely and it won't work while the contraption is rotating. Okay, got it a bit slower, so now as you can see, the harvester is rotating, but when the contraption is turning, it completely stopped. Because it only turned in 2 steps, wasn't very visible, but if I can show it to you more slowly, you can clearly see that it stops when it's in rotation. And the last one, lock rotation, and this one is always going to be the one you always want, and please create dev, make it the default option. I praise you, please stop making it in always face toward rotation. You just broke everything. Anyway, the lock rotation simply makes that your contraption will always be facing the way you've placed it. So if I launch a minecart, the block will just keep the rotation at all time. If I can move the minecart, it will just always look at the absolute emptiness. Now, not only is this very useful because you literally have a contraption that can move in all dimension and rotate at the same time, but no matter how big it is, you can literally just pick it up in your inventory and you now have an item with block inside. Just to tell you how broken this is, instead of having to go to the end and get yourself some shulker box, all you have to do is place one rail, your minecart contraption, and boom. You now got yourself 6 portable storage. It's insanely broken. Okay, now the last one is, if you ever wanted to make a sort of train-like contraption, but without actually using the train in Create, you can simply place 2 cart assembler next to each other, make sure that the block connected to them are glued together, and by simply giving one redstone power to one of the cart assembler, they will connect together. So now you got a train-like contraption divided onto 2 minecart. Obviously, the rotation movement doesn't matter because it will always rotate in function of the placement of the minecart. If I place it in lock rotation, even on both of them, it will simply not work. Also, don't try to pick it up using a wrench. You will just broke it and place it away. Now, this can be useful if you really want it to be stopped, if you made a mistake, but you can't pick up two minecart. Also, don't even try to place another one. I don't really think I need to explain why 3 minecarts won't work. Just try to find it why yourself. So that's everything on the cart assembler. Now, let's get to the more advanced stuff. This is a sticker. When powered by redstone, it will toggle its state of sticking to any blocks in front of it. When activated, the block will get sticked. What it means is, if you have 2 blocks and you want manually to stick them and unstick them, this is the block you need. So here I have an easier example on how it works. So I got myself a mechanical bearing, I got some redstone going on, and I got storage filled up with fish. And I want to pick up the storage and give it to here to empty it. So I'm going to take this little link controller and I can now control, rotate the contraption. So I'm going to go here, and as you can see, I have a sticker and a redstone link. Now the sticker will only work if the contraption is destroyed, that the block are placed down. In this case, I have made the movement mode to only place near initial angle, and this is the initial angle. Now I can activate the sticker, and I now move both my first contraption and the storage. It's now one entire contraption. Second block we're going to see is the portable storage interface. And as you can see, I only got one connect here, and I have one here. If I move the link controller so that they're next to each other, they will connect. And after some time, the fish will start to go out. Now it's a bit slow, so I'm just going to activate my magic lever. There you go. Now, you got all the fish transport from contraption to a real world storage that you can actually see. Look at the hitbox. So now we've successfully moved item from contraption to the real Minecraft block with hitbox. You can also do the reverse step. So in this case, all you have to do is to make the belt go on the opposite side. All I have to do is change it, and now the fish are going inside the contraption. I can activate my magic lever once again. And I can put back the storage back in place. So now for the portable storage interface, it has some limitation. First thing is you can have 1 block gap, or as you can see from above, 2 block gap, and they will still connect to each other. If I activate my bearing right here, it's turning, and I'm going to fill my barrel with cogwheels. First thing you can know is you can use redstone so the portable storage interface won't try to connect. Once the barrel is full, as you can see, it won't even try to connect to each other. If I deactivate the redstone, they're trying. But because there is no output, the portable storage interface will not even try to empty its content, it will just continue. If the portable storage interface got item input, but the contraption is full, they will connect and just continue their way because they can't do anything. And the same thing happened on the other side. If the contraption is empty or there is no way to empty its content, it will just connect and continue. However, there is a bug in the game that makes that if the contraption is moving too fast, but the belt on which using the brass funnel is too slow, if I activate, the brass funnel, the content will not be empty until it finally understands that the belt is working. So the belt is a bit glitchy, however, if you're using a chute, you can be 100% sure that it will connect and stay connected. As you can see, it does it first try, instantly, and will start to empty the cogwheels into the void. So now, let's see what happens if I decrease the speed of the contraption. If I reactivate the funnel, it still doesn't work because the belt is once again way too slow. It still doesn't work because the belt is way too slow. If I give some more speed to the belt, and let it connect again, it still doesn't work. So the brass funnel using belt is extremely broken and sometimes simply will never work, even if I use my special technique. If I make the contraption even slower, I let them connected, they will finally empty the content. So the only thing I have to tell you is use smart chute instead of brass funnel on belt. However, it will be extremely buggy and sometimes won't work. Now, if I use the funnel itself without the belt, it's less buggy, but sometimes it would still continue its way without emptying. Smart chute, on the other hand, will always work 100% of the time. As you can see, instantly connect. Well, these two single block were the entirety of the second part of the video, and now let's get to the last one. These are the contraption actor. These are tools that you will place on your contraption and will activate certain stuff in the real world. For example, I have myself right here a mechanical harvester and a mechanical plough. When placed on a moving contraption, the mechanical harvester will harvest automatically and instantly replant crops in general. The second one is the mechanical plot, which when moving will create farmland and also pick up any block that isn't an actual full block. I can also take the time to actually explain the primary use of the contraption control. This one lets you choose an item on the contraption that you want to activate or deactivate. For example, if I decide to take the mechanical harvester and place it in, I can choose whether or not I want to deactivate them using redstone. So now, if I make them go forward one block, as you can see, the mechanical plot did work, but the mechanical harvester is off. If I place them back, and I activate it, now it works. Automatically pick up the carrots and replant them. Something else you need to know is for the mechanical harvesters, mechanical plot, and mostly all of the item back here, if they can pick up item and you place an inventory on the contraption, they will automatically place all the block in the inventory. So if I place a chest here and I glue it to the contraption, now when I go forward, all of the items are placed in the inventory. Now, while the mechanical harvester only had one use and the plot got some more, it still has one use. And it is, if you place it in a contraption and make this contraption move very fast, you can send mobs flying. After that, we get the mechanical drill. As you think, all it does is when in the contraption and pushed on block, the drill will mine the block in front of them. And just like the first one, if you place an inventory on it, all the blocks that will get mined up will end in the storage. As you can see, depending on the block, the drill will mine faster or slower. And now if you take a look inside that chest, we got all of the resources. The drill are capable of mining any block in Minecraft, which means that if you mine obsidian using the drill, you will get the obsidian drop down. Now that's done, next up is a mechanical saw. If placed directly in your wood, you can simply place it in front of a tree, and when you pour it, it will destroy the entirety of the tree and drop all of the item. If it's placed on a contraption, and also that it mine the last log, if you placed a chest or any other type of inventory on it, the entirety of the drop of the tree will end up in the chest. So since the start, we've only been destroying block, so now what about if we place them? You can use a deployer on a contraption and we placed any block available in front of it. So for example, if I hit this node block right here, the deployer will place available block inside this inventory and place them in the world. Now what I've made right here is a crappy 2D printer, which means that the deployer will go through an entire 2D place. So in this case, I've added a schematic inside, and when placed the schematic on the filter of the deployer, like this, it will now try to place a block where you've placed the schematic, which means that if I now start the 2D printer, the only last thing you need to remember is that the deployer will not place a block in front of it, but two blocks in front of it. As you can see, you got a gap here. Also, the deployer can place block through block, which means that you can place a wall right here, and the deployer will still be able to place the block in front of it. And finally, the last one before we finish the video, this is the mechanical roller. So the mechanical roller is used when you want to replace block, for example in this case a floor, with another block. So let's just imagine I want to make a nice railroad, and so I want to use gravel instead of andesite casing. So to do this, we're going to use the first mode. I'm going to talk about the two other one later, and we're going to give gravel on the filter and place gravel in the inventory. Now I just need to remind you that each of the actor can work on absolutely every create anchors that can make a contraption. I'm using a minecart here because it's more useful, but you could use a deployer on a minecart, or you could use a roller on a gantry carriage. So anyway, now if I press this button, we'll see the roller will replace the block right underneath them. They also have the ability to break the block in front of them. You can also see in the inventory that the block destroyed have been placed in the barrel. Now if you want to check out the two other mod, you're going to have to take some height. Oh no, the gravel is going to fall. That's not important. Okay, now we're a bit in the air. I'm going to take away the gravel. This time we're going to use andesite casing. The first mod is straight fill below, and instead of trying to explain it to you, I'm just going to show you how it works. So as you can see, the roller will simply place block and will continue to place them down until they reach a solid block. Now if I use the second one that I didn't fill up and I place it on the last mode, instead of trying to explain it to you, once again I'm just going to show it to you. Go, stupid minecart. Great. So as you can see, it will try to make a more realistic way down, instead of straight down like the previous one I've done. Now I'm not gonna lie, this consumes a lot of block. So the mechanical roller is a very good tool, mostly if you wanted to change your rail tracks. Well, instead of having to replace the block every time, you can just place the rail normally and then use the mechanical roller to change the block below. Well, this concludes the end of the video. I hope I've helped you, that you've discovered new things, and most importantly, that you want to play the create mode. Next time, I will make a video on all the redstone components that create add. So I hope I see you next time.